Hi everyone, good afternoon. It's Sarah Picaro. I wanted to share with you a recent experience that I had with a client that I've worked with who's 50 years old. And sometimes I get this message on comments and stuff on videos that I post. Well, it's a lost cause. I'm too old, and I think all that's complete BS if you're asking me, because so I went to a birthday party this past weekend for a woman who turned 92. So let's say you are 50 or you are 60 and you live to be 92. You've got another 42 years. You're like barely just over halfway, and you're going to settle for that, and you're going to tolerate that belief that, well, it is the way it is, right? And maybe you've tried stuff in the past and nothing that you've done has worked, and you're experiencing anxiety, depression, frustration, and you don't want to, and you've tried meditating, and you've tried exercising, and you've tried clean eating, or all the things that you're supposed to do, all those things that on one hand, logically if you did more of, or you could just get better at, then you'd feel better. But it's not so much about that. So my recent client that I'm going to share with you about her experience today, she's 50 years old, and she's just getting divorced from the second narcissist, and no wonder we had so much in common. But it was so much more than that. It wasn't just this divorce with a narcissist. What was lying underneath, what was lying under all of that, was this heaviness, like this emotional heaviness, this drain, this energy, and this belief that she wasn't good enough. But more so than that, just this feeling that she just had to tolerate it. And if she could just be okay with tolerating it, then life would be okay. But never ever feeling like life was okay. Just not okay in every sense. Her physical health didn't have the energy to wake up and exercise, and maybe would do really good for a while for diets, and had done a good job getting off medications and stuff, but just still this underlying sense of dissatisfaction in all areas of life. In the relationships that she had, friendships, close relationships, her work relationships, just overall this feeling that she just got to go through life and just tolerate this stuff. And what kind of way is that to live life? Like, really? And almost everyone that I ask, what do you want? They give me the same two answers. They want to be happy, and they want to feel just a sense of peace, joy. And what they're doing is maybe moving the needle just a little bit. Maybe it's, exercising a little bit more, better diet, meditating, journaling. Those are really common things I hear. But they still just feel stuck. Maybe they felt like blocked right here, and then they started to really move, eat better, journal, meditate, and then they got to here, but then they still feel stuck here. And it's expressing itself in the form of abusive relationships, but you find it has so much more to do than with just the abusive relationship. It's so much more to do than a narcissist. And when you find yourself in an abusive relationship, you begin to watch videos, and you begin to read books, and you become an expert on a certain type of personality trait, and the cycle of narcissistic abuse, and you become such an expert on that. But you don't even know who you are. You still feel like a shell of a person, like a just complete void if you don't know who you are. And it was funny because I connected with a recent client. She said, Sarah, another therapist was like, well, what is it that you like to do? Just go do more of that. And I started laughing, and I said, I imagine you started laughing and said, I don't know. I don't even know who I am anymore. I have no idea who I am anymore. That's why I'm here. And your answer is to tell me, go do more of what I like to do. I don't know what I like to do. So she was in her 60s, and she said, Sarah, I put myself into my kids, and I raised my kids. I had 2 narcissistic ex-husbands, and if I'm really thinking about it, my mother had the same traits. She always put me down. Nothing I ever did was good enough for my mother, and already started to make the connection. And then I had this therapist say, well, whatever it is that makes you happy, just go do more of that. And I said, I imagine you wanted to punch her. Yeah. So it's so much more than that, you guys. It's so much more than just journaling and trying to figure it out and meditating. All that stuff is great, don't get me wrong. But you get to this point where you think none of this is working. So it must be me. What's wrong with me? And then you just swim in this pool of belief that something is wrong with you. And you have heard me say this before, and you will hear me say it again. The only thing that's wrong with you is the belief that something's wrong with you. You see, we run off belief systems, and we were talking about how she's wanting to go from A to B. And if you imagine your life is like a navigation system, right? You're journaling, journeying through life, traveling through life, and you know where you want to get. You want to get to this place where you're happy and you're experiencing peace, contentment, joy, and you know you want to get there. And it's like, okay, well, but I'm over here. I don't know how to get there. And this GPS system you're running off is like the first one, the TomTom, the Garmin that like stuck on your rear view mirror. Nobody uses that stuff anymore because you have to pay for updates, pay for programs. I don't even think they make them anymore, but that's like what you're trying to do is you're running off this old TomTom Garmin system that's got maps in it from 20 years ago when those things first came out, and you're still using that to try to go find joy and happiness. Well, the roads are different, buildings are different, everything's different now. It's not going to get you there, right? But you're saying, but that's where I want to go. Well, you've got to upgrade the system you're using, and the system you're using is in your unconscious mind. The system is your internal beliefs about yourself, that you are worthy and deserving of that. So I'm going to share with you what came up for a recent client in a rapid transformational therapy session. I do both hypnosis and rapid transformational therapy. If you want to know more about the differences, we can talk about that later. But she had this overall underlying theme that she just had to tolerate it. You got to tolerate it at work. You got to tolerate it in the relationship with my kids, in relationships, personal relationships, and I'm sick and tired of feeling like I just have to take it. I can't take it anymore. And if I continue to take it, there will be nothing left of me. So what came up for her was actually nothing to do with the narcissist. So the first experience or scene she went back to, it's very different than EMDR. So as you're hearing me describe this, you may think, oh, that's like EMDR. I had another client describe that RTT is like EMDR for the unconscious mind. EMDR works on conscious experiences that you can recall. Very, very different because the unconscious mind is vast. It's about 95% of our mind, whereas the conscious mind is very limited. So bypass that. She goes back to these experiences. Remember, she's 50 years old. First experience she went back to was when she was 4 years old. And she was alone, but there were people in the house. But she wasn't like with any of those people, playing with them. She was doing something and she felt suspicious. And I said, well, you felt suspicious because, and she said, I just felt like I was about to get in trouble. I was sure that I was doing something that I wasn't supposed to be doing, but I can't exactly recall what it is. I just know that it always felt like that. I just knew I was going to get upset. Even though I wasn't upset, I felt like suspicious. I was always getting in trouble and I never understood why. It was just like there was always, but this feeling is common. The feeling happens all the time. The feeling suspicious, feeling frustrated, feeling that she just wanted to be left alone, which is probably why she was alone. But there were other people there because she wanted to get away from those people that caused her to feel so confused and never really understand what's wrong or what's going on or what she did wrong. And she just wanted to be left alone. And then there were times when her parents would be nice to her, and the times that her parents would be nice to her were when other people were over. And she wanted to get away because in this scene, other people were there, friends, family. She wanted to get away because when other people were there, friends and family, mom and dad, who were verbally and emotionally abusive and unavailable, were always yelling at her, always putting her down, always criticizing her, pretended that she was such a great little girl and pretended that she was wonderful and they loved her and she was their little angel. And she knew that that's not how they really felt about her, because when those people left behind closed doors, they put her down, they made fun of her, they belittled her, and she didn't like that. But she wanted them to like her and wanted to be happy because she knew when her parents were happy, they were nice to her and felt that it was her job to always make them happy so that they would be nice to her, but didn't like that and knew it was unfair. And so she had this intense feeling of wanting to lash out, wanting to scream. and felt annoyed and felt like she couldn't trust her parents because they were one way in front of people when there was guests over and another way when those guests left. And she felt betrayed, she felt angry, and she felt stuck. She felt like they were doing it on purpose. And of course, if you feel like someone is treating you like that on purpose, you think that something is wrong with you, because if there wasn't something wrong with you, they wouldn't be treating you that way. You guys, that was when she was 4 and 5 years old. Like I mentioned, she's 50. So she's lived with this feeling that she had to tolerate it for over 4 decades. There are people in prison who don't do that long for having heinous crimes, for acting in heinous ways. Another scene she went back to is when she was 4 years old and she was connecting with her sister. She was really connecting with her sister. Her sister was older and she felt joy, she felt laughter, happiness, she felt true connection. And she wanted that feeling to last and continue on into the next day and the next day and the next day. But something happened and she doesn't know what, and her sister turned on a whim. I don't know what happened, but she just got angry. All of a sudden, I go from being really happy and excited and feeling connected to her to feeling like she's yelling at me for no reason. I don't know what I did wrong. And she felt angry and disappointed. She felt really, really confused because on one hand, she's finally connecting with her sister who's older. She looks up to her. She wanted to be just like her. And then she turns on a dime. And she felt resentful. She felt this deep, deep, deep longing inside of her to want that to continue. This is when she was 4 years old, remember. What is the same feeling that's present when you're in a narcissistic relationship? The deep longing for them to be nice to you. When they're nice to you, it's so short-lived, and then they turn on you and you don't understand why. So you're left with confusion, and I always say that confusion is the first sign of abuse, because it is. And then that longing when they're nice to you. In the narcissistic world, the term is called breadcrumbing, because what happens is you're in this idealization phase. When you enter the first phase or stage of a narcissistic relationship, it's called idealization or love bombing. And that is when you're literally bombed with love. Whatever your love language is, they go through all of them. Acts of service, quality of time, gifts, words of affirmation, all of them, physical touch. You get bombed with every possible way of feeling and experiencing love. And then they set that bar so high, and you think that is who that person is. It's not who the person is. That is what they use. It's a manipulation tactic to hook you into the relationship. And they know this, and that's why they bomb you with love. Real love doesn't feel like that. It's not fake. It's just genuine. It's natural. You don't feel like you're being bombed and just completely overburdened. But to the traumatized soul, to the person with unhealed past traumas, it floods your body and your system with endorphins, with oxytocin, with feel-good hormones, and you think, wow, this is love. Disney fairy tale princess have always waited to be loved this way. They set the bar up here, and then they begin to devalue and discard you, and then lower the bar, and you hold on to the hope and the belief that if you are good enough, if you do enough for them, then you can someday get back to that bar. And that's what came up when this client was 4 years old. Her sister was treating her that way, and being really, really nice, finally opening up, finally being nice to her for once. Her sister was just like her parents, was always belittling her, making fun of her, putting her down, and shaming her, making her feel guilty, and just always was so mean to her, emotionally in particular. And she felt fun, joy, and laughter, and then, just like that, turned on a dime, and she felt left with confusion, sadness, longing, frustration, resentment. And she said, Sarah, I just felt silly. I felt so silly. Like, I knew that even at 4 years old, that my sister wasn't a nice person, that this was going to be a really short-lived thing, but that longing for her to be nice to me was there. A very similar scene happened when she was 8, and her sister was describing to her. Sister was older, remember, so she had just kissed a boy. She came home and she told her all about this experience kissing a boy, and said, oh my gosh, it was so incredible. And she's describing it, and she's like, my sister's being nice to me. I really feel like finally she's opening up to me. And I was so enthralled with the story of her kissing a boy and what the experience was like. I was almost like taking notes, and she's finally letting me in, and oh my God, it felt so good. Like I said, I always wanted to be like my sister. I looked up to her. Even though she was so mean to me, I like longed to connect with her, and felt like both of us had these parents who were always screaming, always yelling, always emotionally and verbally abusive to us. That my sister, the one person that is like me, she gets it. And when she was nice to me, I felt like, oh my gosh. And I felt important. I felt giddy. Finally, she's talking to me and letting me in. She trusts me. She's telling me about her first kiss from a boy. She trusts me with this, and just felt so wonderful. And then she said, like it always did, something happened, and her sister just got so mad at her and completely betrayed her. Got angry at her because she continued to ask questions about this. She said she finally was letting me ask her questions without getting mad at me. And I don't know what question I asked, but I do know that I asked another question, and then she started to yell at me. And then she started to tell me how much she hated me, and to get away from me and get out of there. And again, I don't know what I did. And I felt frustrated. I felt resentful. I felt like a schmuck. I felt stupid because I thought, wow. And again, I wanted that feeling of connection to last forever. And then we went to that part of her, that part within her that held on to that feeling that she needed to tolerate this, and had been tolerating this for 50 years, and what it was trying to do for her. Because you see, everything we do, everything we have, does have a positive intention and benefit. And she was able to connect with this part of her that felt that she needed to tolerate this type of abuse, was trying to protect her, was trying to warn her, was reminding her that this happens constantly, and to make her stronger. And when she realized that after 40 years, that part within her that created that fear, that anger, that confusion, was simply trying to protect her and trying to keep her safe and warn her of people like her sister and like her parents, she was finally able to let go of it. I mean, it was incredible. The entire session, I had chills, and it was such an incredible, empowering experience. And that's what it's like, you guys. It's not the narcissist. The narcissist shows you the very, very painful way to be shown. I know, I've been through it multiple times, but they show you what it is within you that needs healing. And that feeling for her that she had to tolerate abuse in order to be loved, that's simply what it comes down to. It's these adverse childhood experiences, these faulty beliefs about ourselves, that if we want to be loved, accepted, connected, appreciated, we have to tolerate abuse. That's absolutely 100% in every way untrue. But the unconscious mind holds on to those beliefs when they're established and they're developed really, really early on, and then years and decades later leads you to a situation where your mind goes, we get another chance to prove this wrong, because you know it's wrong. You know that love is not abuse logically, but you may not know why you continue to gravitate towards people who use and abuse you and make you continuously feel like that. And then not only are you angry and resentful at that person, you're angry and resentful at yourself for having allowed it. So when I talk about the journey within, the journey into healing, it's all about that, getting to those places within you that took you to, led you to, believing things like that you had to tolerate it and that it was just always going to be that way. No, if you live to be 92 and you're only 50, why do you want to spend 42 years in that same space that you're in now? That's not the life I imagine that you want to live. So it's about breaking free, breaking those chains. At service this Sunday, there was a song called Break Every Chain, and it just had me in tears. I mean, I know you guys know I have tattoos, and one of them is a chain that's completely broken. And it's about breaking the trauma bond, breaking free from those limiting, unconscious, negative beliefs that we have and hold onto, that were established when we were younger, that lead us to being in narcissistic, emotionally unavailable, and abusive relationships, and have us really truly believe that we need to tolerate it. What happens with this wall was built up. And if you know anything about walls, I imagine you do, they keep some things out and some things in. They divide. Well, what was happening is she was keeping fear, anger, frustration, confusion on this side, and the love and the joy and the happiness that she wanted, that destination point that we talked about in the beginning, out there, and wasn't able to access it. She was blocked. She was stuck. So it's about breaking down that wall, breaking these chains, breaking these belief systems that maybe at one point when you were 4 or 5 did protect you and did warn you and did make you stronger, but now, however many decades later, are causing you to stay where you were then. So if you want happiness, you can't stay where you are and just think, well, I'm just going to use this tom-tom garment. No. Just like that needs to be upgraded with new programming, so do you. Otherwise, you're never going to meet your destination, meet your goals, your dreams, your aspirations. You're never going to get as far along on that journey through life and happiness and love and joy as you want to, unless something changes. And what needs to change is not out there. It's just not. You're not going to find it. It's not in a relationship. It's not in a book. It's not in a video. It's in here. It's in your heart, your body, your mind. So, again, thank you for letting me share her experience with you. If you resonate with any of that and you're like, whew, got some work to do. I don't know where to start. You don't have to know where to start. That's the problem, is a lot of us wait to be shown. Where do I start? What do I do next? Your mind will show you. Your mind created the problem. Your mind can create the solution as well if you just allow it. So I'd love to talk to you more about rapid transformational therapy, about hypnosis. If you're interested, if everything else you've tried just hasn't gotten you where you want to be, or if it hasn't worked for you, then let me know. You can always click on the link in the banner, and you can go to my website, and you can click on book a call, and then we can talk more about what it would be like to work one-on-one together. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all again very soon.